and Bob Iger is all like, what's going on with my stocks? No, can't.
Well, boys and girls, children of all ages, ladies and gentlemen, the day that we have been waiting for has finally come. The meeting is over and the results are officially in. Yes, after 5 long months of campaigning for what was going to be a very, very interesting and very, very spicy shareholders meeting that ended up in a proxy battle and a vote for what could have potentially been the future of the Walt Disney Company. Well, the votes are officially in. Things have been tallied, and although we don't have the complete and total vote count just yet, the early votes are in, and it looks like they are currently declaring it as an absolute win for Bob Iger and his slate of Disney CEO board of directors that they currently have right now. Now, obviously, many of us out there are going to be disappointed in these results, but at the end of the day, they're not all that surprising at the exact same time. Major change inside of an industry such as Disney or a Hollywood in general is also something that comes very precociously and is normally not done very well, and a lot of industry insiders always fear about a changing of pace before things actually get so bad. I don't know how much worse they could possibly get for the Walt Disney Company at this point, considering the fact that Marvel has lost well over a billions of dollars over the last few years at the box office. The whole Disney Company as a whole has lost upwards of over $2 billion. We actually just recently had the report come out from the Wall Street Journal of all places showing us that Indiana Jones 5 lost at least $500 million between marketing and the production value on that movie thanks to the tax returns that came out. So at this point, how much worse could things possibly get for Disney shareholders finally decide to make a change? Well, apparently what's been going on so far over the last few years has been enough to happen, because as of right now, things are not as of right now, Nelson Peltz and his slate of directors did not end up making it to the board, and it doesn't look like that's going to change. But at the end of the day, this was still a very, very interesting concurrence calls, and Bob Iger absolutely got roasted to no end during that call. He was getting hit from the left and the right on both sides. The wokies and the normies out there, the fans and the anti-fans, were both slapping Bob Iger around during that call, and it's absolutely hilarious. So we're going to check out this article from Deadline, get into all the juicy details, and also check out what this has done to the Disney stock price, because that is going to be very, very interesting, boys and girls, because you can see the exact moment when that vote's official words came in and how it affected the Disney stock price, and we're going to get all into that. So make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you are not already. Disney D-Day. Bob Iger celebrates board battle win and end of distracting proxy contest. Nelson Peltz disappointed, then tries to spin it into a win, which, his arguments are a little bit valid, or absolutely valid. I think you could say that is based on strictly the price of the Disney stock and overall. But let's check out this and get into all of the juicy details, because we did obviously watch this stream live on my morning stream, Monday through Friday. You can find us over on Rumble at The Common Nerd. It's absolutely wonderful. We had a great time roasting this. The chat had a wonderful time absolutely roasting Bob Iger and all the rest of the nonsense, and it was a good time. So make sure you join us all for that. So once the results were announced, since scoring a big and costly win this morning against Nelson Peltz's second attempt to get on the Disney board, Bob Iger was both gracious and a little biting in the victory. And now also everybody remember that Disney is currently also very most likely the people that leaked out all of the information. Well, Disney would have been the only people that could have leaked about how the results were going in the early voting, which could end up looking into something that could end up biting them in the butt later on, but that's a story for a different day. Once the results were announced in the big bucks corporate battle, the past and present CEO addressed the virtual meeting to thank shareholders for your trust and confidence in the Disney board and management to the ambitious strategy we're implementing across our business to build for the future. You mean like literally redoing and reshooting, costing yourself even more hundreds of millions of dollars on top of production values that were already outrageous for movies that are now being completely and totally rewritten? You talking about that kind of stuff because you realize that your failed woke agenda is absolutely miserably destroying you at the box office? I wonder if that's what you're talking about. Of course, having to fend off a direct challenge to his leadership from Peltz, Trion Group and Ike Perlmutter behind the scenes, Iger also took a swing at his vanquished rivals. Now that this distracting proxy contest is behind us, we're here to focus 100% of our attention on our most important priorities: growth and value creation for our shareholders and creative excellence for our consumers. Yeah, we'll see about that. But notice that he didn't even, without ever saying Peltz, Perlmutter, or even the other activist investors, Blackwell's. Now, Blackwell's, I think, is honestly not solely, but very much a major factor in the loss of Peltz and Treon and all of it, the Treon loss, right? I think that has a lot to do with it because Blackwell came in very last minute and decided to slide in their own slate of board directors, right? To basically essentially split the vote, right? If any of you were around for the 90s election back there between like Clinton and Bush, you'll know that Ross Perot ended up running as a third party candidate, and he was the one that basically caused Bush to end up losing. I think we're looking at a very similar situation here with that. I think if it wasn't for that extra Blackwell's slate of directors, I think if nothing else, at least Peltz would have got, at least, the Treon group would have gotten a lot more votes than what we probably ended up doing. Whether or not we'll find out the actual numbers, I have no idea. But at the end of the day, we knew, I would imagine it was probably some dirty deal with Bob Iger and Blackwell to even pull that kind of stuff, because Bob Iger was absolutely worried about the fact that Nelson Peltz was coming for that ass. So including Iger, Disney's 12th member, the slate received an overwhelming votes with nearly 75% of retail shareholders backing the company. We hear, right? We hear, because we don't have the official titles. This is once again the Walt Disney Company leaking out information about their votes that could sway things. That's the problem with all this kind of stuff. They're going to end up, I hope they end up getting in trouble for that. I just can't see why they wouldn't. On the specifics, after all billions spent, Peltz got 31% of the vote. The Wendy's chairman came up short to Disney's slate nominees and company director. Bob Iger received 94% of the vote to keep him on the Market Parker head board, which I thought was really funny because somebody out here tried like quoting that or something like that in one of these situations. Yeah, right here, Todd Sprangler goes, according to Disney's preliminary shareholders votes, Bob Iger won re-election to the board with 94% of the votes cast in his favor. Well, Nelson Peltz got just 31%, and ex-CFO Jay Russo got even less. Well, Bob Iger's spot was never up for question. So weird way to slate that, Todd Spangler of the Hollywood Reporter. Color us shocked that you're trying to paint that kind of situation that way. So they just talk about a lot more of the details, but obviously Treon has had a response to this now as well. While we're disappointed with the outcome of this proxy contest, Treon greatly appreciates all of the support and dialogue we've had with Disney stakeholders. We are proud of the impact we have had in refocusing this company on value creation and good governance. I mean, honestly, it's one of them stations they definitely have refocused the company, because you have Kevin Feige telling them to completely and totally rewrite the Daredevil Born Again series to make it more like the Netflix series. You have Captain America, Captain Falcon, movie coming out that's going to be completely and totally reshot this summer. Like, there's a lot of stuff on the scrap heap. So yeah, maybe he might not be wrong there. Since we re-engaged in the company in late 2023, Disney has announced a host of new operating initiatives and a capital improvement plans. The board has been refreshed with 2 new directors over the last 6 months. Disney stock is up approximately 50%, and its Dow Jones Industrial Average is the best performance year to date. Now, yes, I think that could have potentially, this threat out there could have absolutely contributed to the fact that the stock price jumped, because there was probably a lot of industry investors out there hoping that Peltz would absolutely get a position on the board and that CFO Jay Russo would come back. Because here's the funny part about that. Yes, the stock has been up over the last 50% over the last few years, but boys and girls, as soon as all of this stuff was announced, what happened to Disney stock? Well, let's go over here and look, ladies and gentlemen, because we'll even refresh it. We'll even refresh it so you can get a fair scope, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's gotten worse since I started recording this video.
Down and down and down. And then Bob Iger is all like, what's going on with my stock?
It was at $120 a share. And watch right here. Now, this is an East Coast time, mind you. Remember, 1:20 p.m. So shortly after it was announced that Iger and all of the rest of them were going to keep their jobs and that Nelson Peltz would not be going on the board, watch what happens. 1:20 p.m. Boom. $2 between 1:20 p.m. and 1:30 p.m. This thing lost $2 in 10 minutes, boys and girls. And as you can see, it has only continued to decline as this goes on. And now it started to plateau out at 119, barely inching its way back up to that 120 mark, boys and girls. The market is not happy with this idea, and there's a lot of people selling off Disney stock, because what else would explain this drastic almost 3%, almost 2.5%, almost 2.5% drop, almost $3 in a drop just since this afternoon. Boys and girls, people are not happy about this, and that's pretty obvious about as far as the different ways they are going about all of this kind of stuff and the way they've been talking about all of this, because it's absolutely insane where we're at right now with all of this, because it's one of them situations where you would think that the investors would have seen all of this right on the wall and have done something about it. Well, some of them absolutely have, because Bob Iger absolutely got roasted at one of those situations where it's one of them things. It's really, really funny, because Disney shareholders also defeated a series of proposals targeting the culture wars, right? One took aim at the company's contributions to politicians who opposed climate change measures, supported anti-abortion laws, and embraced Donald Trump's stolen election conspiracy theories. This is one of them things, like literally, when I say Bob Iger was getting hit by the left and the right, this is exactly what I'm talking about. He was roasted by some woke acolyte of the cult out there for the fact that Disney also contributes to Republican Party candidates as well, and the left would not take that whatsoever. Bob Iger literally got slapped from the left and the right, and it's absolutely hilarious, boys and girls. And so there's a bunch of other stuff on here that's probably should end up being for another video down there somewhere along the lines, because I just don't think there's enough in here for this kind of stuff. There's not enough stuff in here to really go through all of that kind of stuff. I think there's just too much to go through. I think that needs to end up being another video, because as of right now, just the results of this vote and the way the Disney shareholders have gone right now, yes, Bob Iger got slapped around in that meeting, but at the end of the day, the votes ended up coming the way they do, and the Disney stock is not reacting properly. Bob Iger may have won the day and may have saved his job, as well as all of the rest of his acolytes of the cult, his yes men and women that currently sit on that board of directors. But at the end of the day, the market is deciding. Already down almost $3 just in a few hours since the actual announcements came out. Boys and girls, I can't wait to see where this stock goes, because not only did Bob Iger get slapped around in that meeting quite a lot verbally, but he also, now that the vote has officially come in, the market is not reacting well, and I'll be really curious to see where this ends up in the next few days as far as Disney stock price, because if Nelson Peltz is the reason why it's gone up so high, now that he's not going to be around anymore, and now he's not going to be on the board at this point, I'd imagine, considering Bobby Boy is completely and totally charged, it's only going to get downhill from here.
Down and down and down. And then Bob Iger is all like, what's going on with my stocks? No.
And boys and girls, this is the death nail in the coffin of the Walt Disney Company. This was the last slight glimmer of hope we had for them changing anything and trying to turn this around and get back to good storytelling and good agenda. At this point, boys and girls, unless something changes next year and we go through this proxy battle nonsense all over again, I believe today's vote and Disney's shareholders and all of their capital investors out there, the big major investors out there, you're all retarded because you voted for more of the same, which just means that Disney is going to continue being a disastrous dumpster fire. And this, boys and girls, all of you shareholders out there, you have officially nailed the last nail in the coffin for the Walt Disney Company, for the former Great House of Mouse. And guess what? You did it to yourselves. Burn, Disney, burn, and enjoy your stock price dropping through the floor.